You know, in the middle of the brutal, unforgiving skies over Europe during World War II, you wouldn't expect to find stories like this one. Honor was a rare thing. But this is the incredible true story of two pilots on opposite sides, two enemies who met in the total chaos of battle and made a choice that would change their lives forever. So let's meet our two main characters. First, you've got Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown. He's a 21-year-old American kid from West Virginia flying a massive B-17 Flying Fortress. And on the other side, Franz Stigler, a 28-year-old veteran Luftwaffe ace from Bavaria. This guy is a pro, and he's just 1 kill away from earning Germany's highest military honor. So you have these two men, a world apart, on a collision course. But here's where the story takes a turn you would absolutely never expect. It all comes down to this one single statement from the German ace, Franz Stigler. I saw them, and I couldn't shoot them down. I mean, what could possibly make a hunter spare his prey right in the middle of a war? Let's find out. Okay, so it all starts on December 20th, 1943. Charlie Brown and his 10-man crew are in their B-17, which they nicknamed Ye Olde Pub. And get this, it's their very first combat mission. Their target? Deep inside enemy territory, the city of Bremen, Germany. And this mission was no joke. I mean, just look at the odds they were up against. They were going after a factory that built Focke-Wulf 190 fighter planes, so you know it was heavily defended. We're talking over 250 heavy anti-aircraft guns. And their spot in the bomber formation? It was so notoriously dangerous, the pilots called it Purple Heart Corner. This was basically a suicide run. And here they are. This is the crew, 10 young men. And remember, this is their first mission together. Just look at their faces. They were told to expect maybe hundreds of German fighters. They had no idea how right that briefing was about to become. So they're way up there, over 27,000 feet, where it's 60 degrees below zero. They start their bomb run, and immediately the sky just explodes around them with flak. The plexiglass nose of the bomber shatters, an engine is totally knocked out, and others are badly damaged. Ye Olde Pub is crippled. It falls out of formation, all alone, a perfect target. And that's exactly what happened. As Brown's bomber is just limping through the sky, it gets spotted from the ground. Now we're going to see this whole thing from the other side. Down on a German airfield, Franz Stigler is refueling and rearming his Messerschmitt fighter. He spots the lone, struggling B-17, and he takes off. In his mind, this is an easy kill. This is the one that's going to get him his Knight's Cross. He closes in fast, ready to finish the job. But as Stigler gets closer, he sees something that just doesn't compute. The devastation to this plane is catastrophic. The tail gunner is dead. The oxygen and hydraulic systems are shot. Half the rudder is just gone. The radio's destroyed. Multiple crewmen are wounded, some really badly. And out of 11 machine guns, only 3 are still working. This plane isn't a threat. It's a flying wreck. Now, they could have bailed out, but their gunner, a guy named Alex Yelensenko, was critically wounded in the leg. He wouldn't have survived the jump. So, unwilling to just leave him behind, the crew made a pact. They would all stay with the plane, no matter what. And this is the moment where the entire story just pivots. Franz Stigler is right on the tail of a completely defenseless enemy. He can actually see the wounded and terrified crew through the holes in the plane's body. His finger is on the trigger. This is it, an easy, guaranteed victory for a fighter ace. What would you do? I mean, really think about it. That's the choice he was facing right then and there. And in that moment, Stigler remembered something his commanding officer once told him. He said, "If I ever see or hear of you shooting at a man in a parachute, I will shoot you myself." It was this kind of unwritten code, a sort of chivalry among some pilots. And Stigler saw the men in that B-17 as helpless, just as defenseless as a man in a parachute. To him, shooting them down wouldn't be combat, it would be murder. So what he did next was just astonishing. First, he flies up and tries to gesture for Brown to land at a German airfield, to surrender. Brown doesn't get it. So then he points toward neutral Sweden, trying to tell them to go to a safe haven. When he realizes they're determined to keep going, he does the unthinkable. He pulls his fighter right up alongside the bomber's wing, shielding it, protecting it from German anti-aircraft gunners on the ground. He escorted them all the way to the coast, Once they were safely over the open water of the North Sea, totally out of German airspace, Franz Stigler looked over at Charlie Brown, gave him a crisp military salute, and then he just peeled his fighter away and turned back for home. Against all odds, Charlie Brown and his crew made it back to England, but he never, ever forgot the German pilot who showed him mercy that day. For decades, that memory, that salute, it just haunted him. Who was that guy? And why did he do it? And look at this timeline. It shows just how long that question stayed with him. In 1986, that's nearly 43 years later, Charlie Brown finally starts a serious search. He hits dead end after dead end, but after 4 years, he writes to a Pilots Association newsletter telling his incredible story. And then, in 1990, a letter shows up. It's from Canada, from a man named Franz Stigler, who had moved there after the war. The letter began with just 4 simple words. I was the one. The two men finally met, the hunter and the hunted, face to face nearly 50 years after that fateful day in the sky. And they became the absolute closest of friends. They go fishing together, they traveled together, and they shared their unbelievable story with the world. They were like brothers, right up until they both passed away in 2008, only a few months apart from each other. So in one of the darkest chapters in human history, in the middle of a brutal air war, you have 2 men on opposing sides who chose decency over destruction, humanity over hatred. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What does a story like this truly teach us about the nature of honor?